Shrigurubhyo Namaha. Vagishadhyas sumanasas sarvarthanam upakkrame yannatva kritakrityasya stannavami gajananam Sharada Sharadam Bhoja Vadana Vadanambuje Sarvada Sarvadasmakam Sannidhim Sannidhim Kriyat Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam Shastrabdhi Paradrishvanam Sangahinam Taponidhim Bhaje Shri Bharati Tirtha Gurum Bhadroghadayakam Bhaje Shri Bharati Tirtha Karambuja Samudbhavam Vidhu Chodarchana Saktam Vidhu Shekhara Bharatim Kvanat Kanchidama Karikalabha Kumbhastananata Parikshena Madhye Parinata Sharachandra Vadana Dhanurbanan Pasham Srinimapi Dadhana Karatalaihi Purastad Astannaf Puramathitu Raho Purushika. Offering my Sashtanga Pranamas to the Padmas of the Abhay Jagadgurus. In this, the last of the sessions in this camp of the Lalitha Sahasranama, as I said, we'll be looking at the names that are apparent dualities, and then we will finish off by looking at the last 2 or 3 names of the Lalitha Sahasranama. So, we see many names: Ksharaksharatmika, Bhava Bhavavivarjita, Sadasadrupadharini. These names are found very frequently throughout the Lalitha Sahasranama. One name that we have, we'll go in order as they occur through the Lalitha Sahasranama. Vyakta Vyakta. Vyakta Vyakta Swarupini. That is it, right? Vyakta Vyakta Swarupini, then Vyapini Vividhakara, and then later you get Vidya Vidya Swarupini. So Vyakta Vyakta Swarupini. One who is of the form of Vyakta as well as Avyakta. Here Bhaskara Raya writes, Vyaktam Mahattattvam Purvasmad Abhivyaktatvat Mahatvatcha Asamantad Vyaktaha Avyaktaha Tajjanyaha Ahankaraha Tad Ubhayaswarupini iti yavat. So basically we have in the sequence of how the Srishti comes about, you have Prakriti and Purusha. From Prakriti comes Mahat, from Mahat comes Ahankara, from Ahankara comes the Manas. And then you have the Pancha Tanmatras and so on. So the first thing to become manifest, Vyakta, from Prakriti is Mahat. So that Mahat is called Vyakta. The next entity to become very manifest, because the point is that you go from the most subtle, and each effect is more gross than its cause. Each effect is more manifest, more tangible than its cause. So it follows that the Ahankara which comes from the Mahat Padartha is more manifest than the Mahat. So Mahat and then Ahankara are called Vyakta and then Avyakta. Then there is one more meaning that is given. The Ahankara of Parameshvara versus the Ahankara of the Jiva. These are also Vyakta Avyakta, in the sense that the Jiva understands his I-ness in one way. That is Vyakta, because he feels his I-ness towards the body and the mind that he experiences. His locus of identity is rooted in that which is Vyakta, that which is plainly clear to him, that which is observable. However, the true nature of that I-ness within him, which is that I-ness that is there of the Paramatma, is Avyakta. It is not as tangible, it is not as easily understandable as the I-ness that he has towards the body. This is what we call in Sri Vedas the Parahanta. That is to say, the Para-ahamta, the higher sense of I-ness that is found in Parameshvara, that is found in Shiva. So, whatever it is that Parameshvara knows to be his true self, that is to say, the Shuddha Atma, that is the actual sense of I-ness that every Jiva also has. That is what we saw yesterday in the Abala Gopa Vidita. But that is Avyakta, in the sense that the Jiva does not realize it. What the Jiva does realize his I-ness to be is the fact that I am the body and the mind, the usual. So that is Vyakta, Avyakta. Then there is one more meaning that is there. There are 2 kinds of Shaktis that are there. There are some Shaktis that are Vyakta, there are some Shaktis that are Avyakta. In the sense that when there is a fire, the fire's capacity of shining is plainly visible. The fire's capacity to burn is not visible. that is not known until you put your hand on the fire. So there are some Shaktis, there are some forces which are plainly visible, that are Vyakta. There are some forces that are not as visible, that is Avyakta. So in this way, the Vyakta Vyaktas are taken in this way. Then there is one more meaning given, that is given from the Nrisimha Purana. Samashti Vyashti Rupeva iti, Rupava iti. Samashtim Vidur Avyaktam, Vyaktam Vyashtim Munishvaraha. So we have these two concepts of Samashti and Vyashti. This we have gotten before, I think, in this week also. That the individual is the Vyashti, the individual Jiva. The sum total of Jivas is the level of Ishvara. So the Samashti is called Avyakta. The Vyashti is called Vyakta. For the same reason that we talked about the Ahankara also. In that the Jiva sees himself as an entity. He does not see all Jivas put together as one entity. That is not the way that we view the world. So that sense of all the Jivas together being one Sthula Sharira for Ishvara is the Avyakta. The Vyakta that is plainly clear to the Jiva is his own body, the Vyashti. So this is one more meaning that is given. Then we have one more name, Vidya Vidya Swarupini. Vyapini Vividhakara Vidya Vidya Swarupini. She is of the nature of Vidya as well as Avidya. So right off, as usual, Bhaskar Raya quotes an Upanishad, Ishavasya. Vidyancha Vidyancha Yastad Vedo Bhayam Saha Avidyaya Mrityuntirtva Vidyaya Mritam Ashnute. He quotes this. So, however, the meaning that he has given here is slightly different from the meaning that Bhagavad Pada gives in the Isha Upanishad Bhashya. So, here he says there are two items in the world, Vidya and Avidya. The mantra also says Avidyaya Mrityum Tirtva. With Avidya, he crosses over death. Vidyaya Amritam Ashnate. With Vidya, he attains Amritatva, immortality. So here he has taken it to be Vidya Svatmarupam Jnanam, Avidya Charamam Jnanam. So he has taken it in this way. So first we'll tell what Bhagavad Pada said and then we'll come to what Bhaskar Raya has taken. So here in the Upanishads usually karma, Avidya refers to karma. Vidya refers to upasana. That is why these are Vidyas in the Upanishads are called upasanas. And of course, I don't know if we talked about this, but in the beginning also when we call this Shri Vidya, so it is a Sampradaya and Tantra Shastra. In Tantra, in upasanas, there is one way of viewing it wherein the mantras of Purusha Devatas, of male deities are called mantras. The upasanas or the mantras of Stri Devatas are called Vidyas. So because here Paramatma is envisioned as a Stri, as Lalitā, you will call it Shri Vidya, one more Saubhagya Vidya, or Tara Vidya, Bhuvaneshwari Vidya, Kali Vidya. On this side you have Shiva Mantra, Narayana Mantra, Ashtakshari Mantra. So this is one type of usage. You will also say Lalita Mantra, it is not wrong to say that. But when you are dividing them as Vidyas and Mantras, it is one Paddhati, it is one commonality that the mantras are the mantras of Purusha Devatas and Vidyas of Stri Devatas. So we say that the word Vidya is used to mean Upasana not just in Upanishads but also in Tantra as well. So here, there Brahma Vidya is different. There Vidya means knowledge. So here we are talking about it in a technical term. So in the Upanishads when Vidya is used in this way, tam Purva Prajna Samanveti. When we say that, for example, karma and vidya follow the jiva, there is one more vakya in Upanishads where it says that the karma and vidya follow the jiva from janma to janma. So there clearly vidya cannot mean brahmajnana because then there is no janma. So there vidya and karma, there vidya means upasana. Whatever maturity has built up through his upasana will carry through to the next janma. So vidya here refers to upasana, avidya refers to karma. So there avidyaya mrityum tirtva. Bhagavad Pada has written that through karma, that mrityu, which is like the impurity of the mind. So avidyaya mrityum tirtva, having conquered the mortal blemishes of the mind through karma, vidyaya amritam ashnute. Through his upasana, he will attain amritatva, where Bhagavad Pada has written devata bhava. So as we said earlier, through great upasana, you can attain devatva. Right? We said there are some devas who are karma devas and ajana devas. There are some who are born as devas. There are some who attain the sthana, the post of a devata. So through upasana, you can attain amritatva, that is to say devatva. Through karma, you can get rid of all the mortal blemishes of the mind. That is how Bhagavad Pada has taken it. Because later they say, Anyadevahur vidyaya, anyadahur vidyaya. It is said that the phala of vidya is different, phala of avidya is different. So, based on the way that the Upanishad, vidyan cha vidyan cha yastadvedo bhayam saha, the way that the Upanishad goes, Bhagavad Pada has taken it this way. However, the way that Bhaskar Raya has taken it, which is also, it is not wrong per se, it is also a nice meaning, that the avidya refers to the last jnana that the mind has. Vidya refers to the swarupa jnana. So what does this mean? We have to understand how Brahma jnana is obtained. So first you have done karma, you have gotten rid of all the blemishes of the mind, you have gotten chitta shuddhi. Then you have done upasana, your mind has learned to focus. Then you have done shravana, manana and manana. So you have understood that the Upanishads are talking about Advaita, and you have also understood that Advaita is also logically sound. Then you do nididhyasana, wherein you attempt to bring it into fruition. You attempt to bring that Advaita Tattva that you have understood academically into experience. When you do this, then you get the Mahavakyopadesha from the Guru, Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi, wherein it teaches the unity of the Jiva and the Brahman. So at that point, after you do vichara, at some point you understand this statement. So to understand something, you need a manasika vritti. You need a vritti. That is to say, a thought. The shape that the mind takes when it assumes a thought is called a vritti. For example, if I think of a book, my mind will assume pustakakara vritti. If you see a pot, the mind assumes ghatakara vritti. So in the same way, the mind's thoughts have to assume some shape or the other. So that last vritti, wherein the mind assumes the form of Jiva Brahmaikya, is called an akhandakara vritti. This is the term given in Shastra. It is called akhandakara because there are no differences in it. There is no, the triputi that you would have seen before, right? The knower, the object of knowledge and knowledge. This division is not there, and as well as the fact that the difference between the Jiva and Brahman is also not seen there. So it is called akhandakara vritti. So this vritti is still a formation of the mind though. So technically it is still avidya because the mind still exists. Then what happens? Just as when you put fire onto a log, you can use that log, the fire on the log, to burn other wood, and then the fire burns the wood as well. In the same way, this jnana that has come about through this akhandakara vritti gets rid of avidya, everything that is caused through avidya, and then because the vritti also is made up of avidya, that also goes. And you are left with your swarupa jnana. Just the jnana, not even a mental lens through which you are experiencing it. So this last lens of the mind, that is the akhandakara vritti, is called avidya. That is why avidya mrityum tirtva. You let go of the entire gamut of maya through this final vritti. Then that vritti also goes and you are left with shuddha jnana, vidyaya amritam ashnote. With the knowledge or the experience of that shuddha chaitanya, you attain moksha. So that is how Bhaskar Raya has taken it. Then there is one more thing that he has taken here. Yadva vidyaiva charamavritti rupam jnanam avidya bheda bhranti rupam jnanam parabrahmatmakam jnanam. So there is one more way that he has taken it. The word vidya means knowledge. Literally something that is known. So then he takes, let us not take this to be the Shuddha Chaitanya, which is not an object of knowledge, but rather we'll take it to be the vritti only. That last vritti, that wherein Jiva Brahmaikya is experienced. We will take that to be vidya. The object of knowledge that is Jiva, that is Brahmatmaikya Svarupini. And with avidya, we will, so now leave the mantra aside. We are no longer talking about this in the terms of the mantra. We are now just looking at vidya and avidya normally. So now we are just taking vidya to mean that last vritti, and we are taking avidya to mean still knowledge of Paramatma, but bheda is still experienced. So for example, what we are doing right now, we generally believe that yes, in the highest sense of Advaita, Jiva and Brahman are one, but we have not experienced it yet. So this is avidya. Then the sense where this is actually experienced, albeit through the last vritti of the mind, we will take that to be vidya. So this is one more meaning. Then they have given one more meaning, wherein he has added one more to this. So then we say, so you have talked about the vritti, and then you have talked about the normal knowledge. What about the actual Chaitanya? So that is why here Bhaskara Raya has taken it as Vidya, Avidya, Sva, Rupini. So it is actually three forms. She is of the form of Vidya, Avidya and Sva. So he has quoted Linga Purana here. Bhrantir Vidya Parancheti Shivarupamidam Trayam. Shiva here meaning Paramatma's Chaitanya. The Chaitanya which we call Shiva takes three forms. Bhranti, Vidya and Para. Here. Artheshu Bhinna Rupeshu Vijnanam Bhranti Ruchyate. So the knowledge of things as this is different, this is different, this is different, this is called Bhranti. This is one form. Then Atmakarena Samvittihi Budhair Vidyeti Kathyate. Understanding that the Atma is what you have been meditating upon until now. So exactly what we talked about, that last vritti wherein you realize Jiva Brahmaikya, that is Vidya, Budhair Vidyeti Kathyate. Then Vikalpa Rahitam Tattvam Paramitya Vidhiyate. Then there are no more Vikalpas, there is no knower, there is no known, there is no mind also. That state is called Para, which is Swam, Devi's true nature. So she is Vidya, Vidya, Swa, Rupini. Her Rupas are threefold. That of the usual knowledge that we have, wherein we conduct a transaction with the world with the knowledge of Bheda. Then that final knowledge that you get, which is of the nature of Jiva Brahmaikya. And then that final Chaitanya, which is not even an object of knowledge, which is Devi's true form. So this is Vidya, Vidya, Swarupini. This is one more name that we have. Then we have one more name. Sadasad. It is the Advaitin's Nirvikalpaka Samadhi. Because the Yogin's Nirvikalpaka Samadhi is slightly different, wherein the object can be anything. In the Yogi's Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, for example, I can meditate on the book. As long as I am not aware that I am meditating and I am aware only of the book, that is the Nirvikalpaka Samadhi of the Yoga Sampradaya. So the Advaitin has one more change, wherein there the object has to be Atma. And it has to be Atma not in the Paramatma sense, but as the Shuddha Chaitanya. Not as Parameshwara, but as Shuddha Chaitanya. So that is, the Advaitin kind of takes one more step above Nirvikalpaka Samadhi, wherein it is not just a general focus on an object without any Vikalpas, but the object has to be the Advaita Brahman, the Shuddha Chaitanya. So it is more or less the same, going a bit more past that. Then, one more name is there, Sadasadrupa Dharini. So someone mentioned yesterday after I discussed Sat and Asat as Sat is Trikala Abadhya, not there in all three times Sat. Asat is something which is, then how is Devi Sadasadrupa Dharini? The words Sat and Asat are used in a host of different ways across the Shastra. So, it is not always that Asat means Tuchha, but when the Advaitin is defining Mithya, he is saying existence, this is this end of the spectrum, absolute non-existence is on this end of the spectrum, whatever is in the middle is Mithya. So here it is slightly different. Sat Brahma, Asat Tat Bhinnam Jagat. It is that simple. Sat is Brahma. Here Asat means that which is different from Sat. We will take only that, not that which is not, that which does not exist. See, this is why we need to know, Vyakarana is also taught when you do Vedanta, right? We call the Jagadgurus Pada, Vakya, Pramana, Paravara, Parina. Pada is Vyakarana, Vakya is Mimamsa, Pramana is Nyaya. Only if these three we are rock solid in, Vedanta will be a straight shot. Otherwise, we will be trying to understand things. So, when you derive words, there are various ways. So, Asat can be taken in two ways. Astiti Sat, Nastiti Asat. This is one meaning. Sat iti Astiti Sat, Tad Bhinnam Asat. There is a slight difference in the two. To exist is to be Sat. To not exist is to be Asat. To exist is Sat. That which is different from that is Asat. There is a slight difference in the terminology here. So exactly. So that which does not exist is Asat. That is where we take the Tuchha Padarthas. We call it Tuchha in Advaita, wherein the horn of a rabbit, the Vandhyaputra, the flower in the sky, all of that is that. Sat Bhinna. So everything that is not this end of the scale is Sat Bhinna. That is to say, it is not just the other end of the scale where nothing exists, but even something that exists temporarily is also not Sat. Something that does not exist and something that exists temporarily are both different from Sat. So in that sense, the Jagat is Asat. So, for example, we see even in the Upanishad, asadva edamagra asit, tato vai sadajayata. So, if we take that sat always means trikalabadhya and asat always means that which never exists, then how do we explain this Vedavakya? Because it says, asadva edamagra asit, tato vai sadajayata. This was all asat. From that, sat came. So, this is actually the complete opposite of what we are saying until now. In the Upanishad, what it means is asat means that which has not become manifest yet, Paramatma in the avyakta state. Then it became sat, it became manifest as the jagat. Tad atmanaggas swayamakuruta, yadvaitat sukritam. All of that comes there. So the word sat and asat we have to understand based on the context. When we are defining mithya, we talk about sat and asat like this because Veda talks about that in that way in the higher sense. Because it says satyam jnanamanantam brahma. So the Brahman that is not always there in the three times also is called sat. So when we are defining what the nature of the jagat is, we will keep that as the benchmark. And then you also have to keep the absolute opposite benchmark also. Right? The other end of the scale also has to be there. So that we have put as the complete opposite, that which does not exist at all. That is to say, that which is never experienced by anyone. That is where you get the Vandhyaputra, Shashashranga, all of that comes there. So everything in the middle also, which we are calling mithya, is also not sat. So in that sense, Devi is sat and asat. And one more thing that is there in Gita, Bhagavan himself says, right, tapami hamaham varsham nigrinham yutsrujami cha amritanjaiva mrityuscha sadasachaham arjuna. So there also Bhagavad-pada writes in the Bhashya, yadva karyakarane sadasati. The karya and the karana, cause and the effect. Because it's exactly what we discussed in the Upanishad also, in the Upanishad I just mentioned now, wherein the cause is unmanifest, the effect is manifest. Right? We do not, when we see this paper, we see it as a paper. We don't say this is tree wood. Right? So the tree wood, which it actually is, this came from a tree. But this is unmanifest in the sense that we don't view it as that. That aspect of it is hidden. What is viewable is what it has become. This has become a paper. Right? In the same way, the same pot and the mud. You will say, bring me that pot. You will not say, bring me that mud. Or when you say, I have a pot, you will not say, I have mud. So what is vyakta, or sat, what is existing to the mind, what is viewed as existing is sat, which is the effect, the karya. Asat is that which does not seem to exist. That is to say, that which is not tangible or that which is not viewable is the cause, the underlying cause. So that is also taken. So there he has given one more meaning here. Athava sadvyavaharikam satyam paramarthikam va asattucham te eva rupe vishayo dharayati bhasayati sadasad vishayaka jnanadvaya swarupa ityarthaha. So then this will become a bit more confusing because this is exactly what we thought could not happen. Bhaskara Raya says, let us take sat to mean paramarthika sat. Let us take tuchha to mean the thing that never exists. She who makes both of these happen is Devi. She is the reason why sat is there, in the sense that, okay, that we understand, she is Chaitanya, she is existent. She is also the reason why asat is not there. Why? So here, the explanation is actually quite nice, wherein he says, how do we know that there is something called asat? See, if asat, what have we defined asat as? Something that no one experiences at any given point of time. No one has ever seen the horn of a rabbit. No one has ever seen the child of a barren woman. No one has ever seen a flower that grows in the sky. Then how are we able to say a flower that grows in the sky, child of a barren woman, right, the horn of a rabbit? How are we able to say this? There is some Chaitanya that impels the mind, through which the mind is able to fit two things together. We know a horn, we know a rabbit. So we say rabbit's horn. It is not that we experience a rabbit's horn, but because we know a horn and a rabbit, we can say rabbit's horn. Right? We know someone who cannot have children, we know what a child is. So we say the child of someone who cannot have children. So at the end of the day, what is the cause for us to even say that there is something called asat? Our mind. Which is why they quote a Gautama Sutra here, that buddhi siddham tad asat. This is Gautama Sutra. Oh. Huh? It is? Ajnana, no, Ajnana is not knowing Brahman is Ajnana. This is slightly different. And that is why he is defining that. So what we call asat, this tuchha, is that which is purely buddhi siddha. That which you only put together in your mind but never experience is asat. That is Gautama Sutra. And then he also quotes the Yoga Sutra. Shabdamatra anupati vastu shunyo vikalpaha. The vrittaya of Panchatayah, the 5 vrittis of the mind, of that one is this Vikalpa. So this Vikalpa is Vastu Shunya. There is no actual object. There is nothing real that is the object of the thought. So when we say the horn of a rabbit, there is no actual horn of a rabbit that can be the object of this thought. Right? Because you can only think of something that you have experienced. So there is no rabbit's horn that is the object of this thought. But then how is the thought there? Shabdanupati. It is merely 2 words that have been put together. So the knowledge of those words and their individual meanings is what leads us to be able to put them together and say that this is asat. This is not experienced ever. So the ability of the mind to do this exists also only because of perception. Right? That which you actually perceive, such as the book. This you see because Chaitanya inside is allowing you to perceive it. In the same way, that which never exists, that is to say, everything that we have said, the rabbit's horn and all, that also you are able to say this never exists and I do not perceive it because of Chaitanya. So she who through the Rupa of Chaitanya is able to divide these two into Sat and Asat, that this never exists, this is permanent. That is Devi who is Sad Asad Rupa Dharini. It is that Chaitanya, when put through the mind, through the vritti of the mind, that assumes these forms. Right? So to even more clarify it, we can take it as thoughts. We can divide our thoughts into 2 kinds of things. Thoughts in which the object actually exists, thoughts in which the object does not actually exist. So the thoughts in which the object exists is all the Paramarthika and Vyavaharika thoughts. So the thoughts wherein this is a mic, this is a book, this is my body, this is a stage, this is Sringeri, all of this also are things that do indeed exist. So these thoughts wherein you are thinking or wherein you are contemplating on something that exists is the Sat part. Then same thing, rabbit's horn, Shashashringa, Kapushpa, all of these are things wherein the thought is of something that does not exist. That is Asat. Both of these thoughts attain a Rupa. Both of these thoughts come into being because of Chaitanya. So that is why she is Sad Asad Rupa Dharini. This is one more meaning. Then one more meaning, Bhava Bhara Parau Sadasat Shabdau. So Sadasat means Bhava Bhava. What does this mean? We will see in Bhava Bhava Vivarjata. Then that is the last meaning that is there. So that only is quoted. They give one quote from the Yajñavaibhava Khanda of the Suta Samhita. Yadyad astitaya bhati, yadyan nastitaya picha, tattat sarvam mahadeva mayaya parikalpitam. So whatever we can say, this exists. Yadyad astitaya bhati, yadyat nastitaya api. Whatever we say, this does not at all exist. Or whatever we can say, this exists. Both of those, tattat sarvam, there are 2 meanings. Mahadeva mayaya, through the maya of Parameshwara, or Mahadeva as a sambodhana, mayaya parikalpitam. All of this is done through maya. Devi is maya. That is one meaning. That is one word. Then one more that we have is Bhava Bhavi Varjita. Straight the next name that we see is that. Bhava Bhavi Varjita. So there is one Nyaya in Samskrita. Dvandvante Shruyamanam Padam Pratyekam Sambadhyate. In a Dvandva Samasa, in a compound word that is a Dvandva, the last word applies to all. So Bhava Bhavi Vivarjita. Vivarjita applies to all. Bhava Vivarjita, Abhava Vivarjita. That is how it is taken. The Samasa is taken. So Bhavas are things that exist. Abhavas are absences. So that is also something that, we can take it in the Nyaya. The way that Nyaya school defines it is, there are Sapta Padarthaha. There are 7 Padarthas. What is a Padartha? Something that is the meaning of a word. Padasya Arthaha. Something that is the meaning of a word. One more meaning is there. Padyate Arthyate cha Padarthaha. That which is known and seen is a Padartha, but we can put that aside. Padartha here means anything that exists is a Padartha. These Padarthas are then split into 2 categories. Bhava and Abhava. So something that is of the nature of being, something that is of the nature of non-being. For example, a pot, that is of the nature of existing. There is no pot here, that is Ghata Abhava. This is of the nature of non-existing. But this is not Asat. It is not like the Vandhyaputra, because the pot not existing actually exists. It is a slight difference. So the Ghata Abhava is an existent object. Just as the pot is an existent object in one place, where the pot does not exist, the lack of the pot is also an existent object. So, an object and its non-existence. These are both the division of this world. So then again the bhavas are sevenfold. Dravya, guna, karma, samanya, vishesha, samavaya, abhava, saptapadarthaha. The first six are bhava. Abhava is of course abhava. So then of course dravya, objects, gunas, qualities, karma, action, guna, karma, samavaya. The relationship between the quality and an object. Samavaya, vishesha. The quality that differentiates permanent objects, one permanent object from another. Then Vishesha Samavaya Abhava. So in this way, the Nayayikas have told 6 Bhava Padarthas and 1 Abhava Padartha. So these are Bhava Bhavas. So to simply tell, objects and lack of objects. These put together is the entire Srishti. Now we cannot say that there is a lack of Asat. So the Tuchcha Padarthas, there is no lack of that. Why? For something to be lacking, it has to be existent elsewhere. So what is lacking in Sanskrit is called a pratiyogi. So abhava and the abhavas pratiyogi. If we say there is a ghata abhava, there is a lack of a pot here, the pratiyogi of this abhava, pratiyogi is to say a counterpart. The counterpart in this abhava is a pot. So because there is something called a pot and a pot does not exist, we are saying that there is a lack of a pot here. You cannot say there is no Shashashringa or Shashashringa Bhava, because for there to be a Shashashringa that is lacking, there has to be a Shashashringa somewhere else. So because there is no Shashashringa elsewhere, you cannot say that there is a lack of a Shashashringa. Right? It is like saying, I have lost 100 rupees. If you never had 100 rupees, if you have 100 rupees, you can even lose it. If you never had 100 rupees, you cannot lose it. So in the same way, the pratiyogi, that is why we say that there has to be something called pratiyogi prasiddhi. The pratiyogi in the abhava has to be something that you know of. That is why you can also say nishedha jnanasya pratiyogi jnana purvakatvat. If you wish to say something does not exist, you first have to say that it exists. Which is why the Advaitin says that the Jagat exists in the Vyavaharika sense. So we can now negate it and say that it does not exist in the Paramarthika sense. If it were the case that the Advaiti said that the Jagat was completely Asat, he could not say that the Jagat does not exist. Because saying that there is a lack of a Jagat means you have to know the Jagat first. Right? So that is why one more reason why we don't say that the Jagat is Asat. We say it is Mithya so that it is perceived and then we negate it in the high sense. So for something to be negated, it first has to be perceivable. So for that reason, Abhava is different from Asat. We have to understand this difference first. So I think we are now clear that there is an object that exists called a bhava. A lack of an object is called abhava, wherein there is also a pratiyogi. That is to say, whatever is lacking, the lack of the pratiyogi is an abhava. So far we are clear that bhava and abhava is there. Now Devi does not have both. Bhava vivarjita we can understand. In the sense that Devi does not have any objects that pertain to her. Because she is nirguna, there is no rupa. Right? If you have a rupa, then first of all that is one dravya that pertains to you. Then all the objects that you own, my house, my weapons, my clothes, all of these objects come. So Devi, because she is nirguna, nirakara and all of that, this Shuddha Chaitanya does not have any object associated with it. So she is there is no dravya, no guna is also there, no kriya is also there. So there are no bhava padarthas. This is easy. How do we say that Devi does not have an abhava? Because the lack of all of these are there, right? Devi does not have any gunas, which means guna bhava is there. Devi does not have any kriya, which means kriya bhava is there. So how do we understand that then Devi is also abhava vivarjita? So there, Vyakyakara is very nicely written. Tatascha tatra vyasapadairev parihrtatvat yajñavaibhava khande adhishthanavashesho hi nashah kalpita vastunaha bhavasyaiva hyabhavatvam nasho bhavasya bhavata bhavabhavasvarupabhyam anya eva hi kalpitaha adhishthanasya nasho hi na satyatvad eva sarvada. So these are some shlokas in the Suta Samhita once again that he has quoted. So Suta Samhita is in the Skanda Purana, Vyasa Maharshi. So when a vastu is kalpita, when a vastu has been concocted, when a vastu has been created, the destruction of that vastu is its remaining as its substratum. That is to say, the destruction of the snake is its remaining as the rope. So, if you say sarpa bhava, what is that actually? Sarpa bhava is actually the rope. So, to say that the sarpa does not exist means that the sarpa is actually the rope. Now, then we get the question. So, we have said that this is there, abhavasya adhikaranatmakatvat. So, if you say there is no pot on the ground, then what is actually there? Only the ground is there, is what we mean. So, the lack of the pot is actually of the nature of the ground. The Tarkikas disagree here. The Tarkikas will say, if that is the case, then how can you say bhutale ghata bhavaha? The pot does not exist on the ground. If the pot's non-existence is of the nature of the ground, then how can you say that this is all, at the end of the day, this all becomes semantics. It is just to say, because we are saying this, how can you say that? Then you will have to do it in one way. So at some point it is semantics, but at the end of the day, if you say the pot is not there and you put your hand, you end up touching the ground. So the lack of the pot is none other than the adhisthana. That is to say, where does the pot not exist? The ground. So in that sense, we can take that. So, a kalpita vastu's nasha is the adhisthana. Right? So, when the snake goes, the rope remains. So, the destruction of the snake is of the nature of the rope. So, now when we say that Devi is abhava vivarjita, what we mean is, there is no pratiyogi of any abhava that exists on the same level of reality as Devi. Samasattaka pratiyogita ka abhavo nasti. That is a Sanskrit word. There is no abhava wherein the pratiyogi has the same satta as Devi. So, when we say that the Jagat does not exist in Devi, in the Paramarthika sense, what level of realities does the Jagat belong to? Vyavahara. What level of reality does Devi belong to? That is, say, Shuddha Chaitanya belong to? Paramarthika. So, there is no Paramarthika vastu that is the pratiyogi of any abhava that Devi has. Any abhava that you show in Devi will only have a pratiyogi that is Vyavaharika. So, because all the pratiyogis of these abhavas are Vyavaharika, it then follows that the abhava is also Vyavaharika. So, then you cannot say that the abhava as the abhava is Paramarthika. Therefore, what you have left is one Paramarthika object with several Vyavaharika pratiyogitaka abhavas in it. Have we understood? Slightly, let me tell it again. This is all the Samskrita version. Now I will tell the English version. So, what we mean here is that there are two ways of viewing the abhava. You can view it as the abhava, that is the lack of an object, or you can view it as the substratum wherein that object has been created. That is to say, the lack of the snake can be viewed as the lack of a snake or as the rope. Right, so there is a rope, no snake is here. You can take that to be, there is no snake here, or the lack of the snake which is actually ending up being the rope itself. Right, because when you say Rajju Sarpa, you remove the Rajju, what is left? The Sarpa, or you remove the Sarpa, what is left? The Rajju is left. Right, because what is actually the Sarpa? It is your idea of the Sarpa on the Rajju. So the Sarpa has been created there, which is why we say that the Sarpa is Pratibhasika. It only appears to exist on the rope or in the rope. So now if you say that this Sarpa does not exist, you can tell that in two ways. The Sarpa does not exist, the rope alone exists. Right? The lack of the snake can be shown in both ways. That the snake does not exist and the rope alone exists. So this is the case with Devi also, in the sense that when we say whatever we have said at Bhava Vivarjita, whatever objects that Devi does not have, including the Jagat, rather saying this object, this quality, if we just say the Jagat, that encompasses all objects and all qualities. So let us take Bhava to mean the Jagat. So now we say that the Jagat does not exist in Devi. This we can tell in two ways again. The Jagat does not exist in the Paramarthika sense, right? If we say the Jagat does not exist, it cannot be in the Vyavahara sense, so it has to be in the Paramarthika sense. So, the Jagat does not exist in the Paramarthika sense. We can say it this way. Devi alone exists. That is to say, Brahman, we'll say Brahman to make it easier. Brahman alone exists. You can also say it like this. That is to say, the lack of the Jagat is Brahman. Just as the lack of the snake is the rope, the lack of the Jagat is Brahman. So now we say that there is still a lack here, right? The abhava is still there. Then we say, what is the pratiyogi for the abhava? That is to say, what is the object that is lacking? Just as when we say ghata abhava, it is the ghata lacking there. When you say jagad abhava, what is lacking? The jagat. What level of reality does the jagat belong to? Vyavahara. So, when we say that Devi is, when we say that Brahman is paramarthika, there is no other paramarthika object that will be the object of an abhava, that will be the pratiyogi for an abhava. So, there is no paramarthika bhava or abhava that is there along with Devi, that is there along with Brahman. So, Devi is bhava bhava vivarjita. I think a bit more clear it has become now. So, to reiterate the fact, there is no bhava, there is no existent object that exists along with Devi. There is also no lack of an object which is paramarthika that exists along with Devi. So, then the question will come, your definition of paramarthika is that which never lacks. So, does this not become circular reasoning? You are saying that paramarthika is that which never doesn't exist, that which never not exists. And then you are saying, because of that there is no vyavaharika padartha that is not paramarthika. Is this not circular? So, what we have to understand here is, in the vyavaharika jagat, this is possible, in the sense that you can have a pot and a lack of a pot sitting next to each other. The pot exists here, no pot exists here. Okay? The pot exists in vyavahara. When you say that there is no pot here, what kind of a pot are we talking about? Are we talking about a pratibhasika pot or a vyavaharika pot? Vyavaharika pot, right? So, if I say there is a rope there, so the kalpita padartha will be pratibhasika, like the rajju sarpa. Then the normal objects that we interact with are vyavaharika. Then the substratum of all of this Brahman is paramarthika. So, if I say there is no pot here, do I mean that there is no trikala badhita pot that is here? If that is the case, then even when the pot is there, I should say that there is no pot here. Because this pot also does not exist in all three times. So, when I say that there is no pot here, I mean that there is no vyavaharika pot here. In the same way, when we say that the jagat does not, so when we say that there is no pot here, the pot that is the pratiyogi of the ghata bhava, the ghata that is the pratiyogi of the ghata bhava is also vyavaharika, the ghata bhava is also vyavaharika. Correct? So the lack of the pot is also in vyavahara. The pot that is lacking, that we are saying is not lacking, is also vyavaharika. Now, this cannot be replicated in the paramarthika sense is what we mean. We cannot say that Brahman exists. There is also one paramarthika padartha that is not existing, which is why Brahman is alone. There is a vyavaharika padartha that does not exist in the paramarthika sense, so Brahman is one and singular. That is what we mean. So when we say Devi is bhava bhava vivarjita, this is also the questions, I'm going I guess from topic to topic to topic, but this is the question that people say that Advaita is like Bauddhas. Because Bauddhas say everything is shunya, you are saying it is an abhava. But what we say that separates us from the Bauddhas is, we are not just saying abhava is a lack of something. The lack of something is the existence of its support. If I say there is no pot in my hand, it means that only my hand is there. So when we say that there is an abhava, we mean that there is no pratiyogi there, but it is the object which is the support of that pratiyogi only that exists. So I am having to use Samskrita terminology, but I think we have understood this point, right? So when we say that the abhava is of the nature of the adhikarana, we mean that the abhava of a vyavaharika object is paramarthika. Make sense? So the lack of a paramarthika object is none other than that entity wherein this vyavaharika object has been created. Just as the lack of the snake is none other than the rope wherein we have seen the snake. So in this sense, for there is no vyavaharika object that exists alongside Brahman, there is also no vyavaharika abhava separate from Brahman. Because all vyavaharika objects are created in Brahman, making it the same nature. Then in the Paramarthika sense, there is no second Paramarthika object, because there is no other object other than Brahman that exists in all three times. So there is no bhava. There is no abhava, means there is no abhava wherein the Pratyogi is Paramarthika for Brahman. That is to say, there is no abhava that exists alongside Brahman wherein you will say the Pratyogi, the object that is lacking in this abhava, does not exist in all three times, because such an abhava can never exist. Okay, so this is what we mean when we say that Devi is bhava bhava vivarjita. And just to show how, there is one more thing that these the Dvaitis say. They say that, so then you have said that the Jagat is mithya, right? That is basically what we have told until now. This is what we mean by mithya, in that it exists but not absolutely. So you say that the Jagat is mithya. So this quality of being mithya is there in the Jagat. That is to say, mithyatva is also there in the Jagat, right? So then if everything in the Jagat is mithya, mithyatva is there in the Jagat also. Should not mithyatva also be mithya? So then if mithyatva becomes mithya, then what happens? Something that is not only seemingly seeming is actually real. So then you have ended up contradicting yourself and saying that the Jagat is satya. By this point, our mind will have become one jilebi. But it is actually the reality that satta runs opposite to abhavas. That is to say, in satta, as you go down, that is to say, as you keep going to the root, things get more real. As you progress down the same track in abhavas, things get reversed. That is, let me give you an example. Brahman is not pratibhasika. So pratibhasikatva abhava is there. So does this make it even more pratibhasika? No, it means that it is very real. In the same way, paramarthikatva abhava, it does not exist in the past, present or future. What is the nature of this object? Complete tuchha. Right? If it doesn't exist in the past, present and future, it means that it never existed at all. Right? That is the exact tuchha that we said you can never conceive of, so such an abhava can never be there. So it is the case that satta and abhava actually run reverse to each other. It is not like satta and abhava progress with each other. This is a very conceptual thing. If we have not understood it, let us leave it. Let us not progress now, because it is already, 12:45. Okay, and the Bhojana Shala closes soon. So keeping the Vyavaharika Bhojana in mind, we will progress from this Paramarthika Vichara. But if we understand this Bhava Bhava Vivarjita, in the sense that there is no Vyavaharika Bhava that is there aside from Devi, and Devi is of the nature of the Vyavaharika Abhava, because the Vyavaharika Abhava is the Vyavaharika Adhishthana, the Adhishthana for Vyavaharika Padarthas, which is Paramarthika. Okay, so this we are clear on, right? The Vyavaharika Jagat, Brahman is bereft of it, and Brahman is of the nature of the Abhava of the Vyavaharika Jagat, because it is the Adhishthana for the Vyavaharika Jagat. In the Paramarthika sense, there is no other Paramarthika object, there is no second object that exists in all three times. And there is no such thing as a Paramarthika Abhava. Because, as we said, for something to have an Abhava, you have to have the Pratiyogi Prasiddhi. If there is something that exists in all three times, only then can you say there is a lack of something that exists in all three times. So if you want a Paramarthika Vishayak Pratiyogita ka Abhava, Pratiyogika Abhava. So that is to say, we are qualifying the Abhava based on its Pratiyogi. So an Abhava wherein the Pratiyogi is Vyavaharika has already been discussed. The Abhava wherein the Pratiyogi is Vyavaharika is of the nature of Brahman, because it will be, the Abhava is of the nature of the substratum. Now, is there an Abhava wherein the Pratiyogi of it is Paramarthika? There is no such Abhava, because only if such a Paramarthika object is known, can you say that there is also an Abhava of it. Just as only if you know that there is a Ghata, you can say that there is a Ghata Bhava. There is no Paramarthika object aside from Brahman, therefore there is no Paramarthika Abhava that you can conceive of. And then you can say Paramarthika Abhava, then there is one Paramarthika Padartha. There is one entity that is Paramarthika, which is Brahman. There is no concept of there being an Abhava for that, because by definition Brahman does not have an Abhava. Brahman exists, right? Asti Brahmetyupasita, right? Asti Brahmeti Chedveda. Brahman exists. It is of the nature of existence. So Brahman does not have any Abhava, and there is no other paramarthika object which cannot exist aside from Brahman. So there is no such thing as a paramarthika abhava, and there is no vyavaharika abhava with Devi. So she is bhava abhava vivarjita. Then one more name is there, Parapara, Nistraygunya Parapara. So here, Parashabdaha Aparashabdaha, Parapara Shabdova, Yasya Vachakaha, Parapara Shabdova, Yasya Vachakaha. So here they have given one meaning wherein Devi takes many forms in this world. Some forms are very lofty, some forms are very tuchha. So the lofty forms as well as the very mean forms, both forms are taken upon by Devi. So she is para and apara. This is one. One more meaning is there. Para is that which is far away, apara is that which is close. So here he quotes Gita. Bhaskara Raya quotes Gita in the Vyakhya. Durasthan chantike chatat. Right? Brahman is both far away and close. How we can understand by now? It is close as the Atma. It is far away as Ishvara. As Ishvara, it is very distant from our nature. Far away means Ishvara is also Sarvavyapaka. It is distance in the sense that Ishvara is so much higher than us, than the Jiva. So it is very far away. It is also very close to us because it is also the Aham that we are experiencing every day. That is one thing. Then one more thing is Param Brahma, Aparam Brahma. There are two types of Brahmans. This is told in the Upanishad also. Etadvai Satyakama Param Aparancha Brahma is there. So the Upadesha is being done to Satyakama. O Satyakama, this Brahman has two natures, Para and Apara. See, Shruti is also so clear about this. People ask, where do you see Saguna Brahma and Nirguna Brahma in the Vedas? It is so clearly told in the Upanishads in 2 or 3 places. Etadvai Satyakama Brahma Param Aparancheti. The Para Brahma is the higher sense of Brahman, wherein it is Nirguna. The Apara Brahman is the Brahman to which we apply qualities, such that we can do Upasana, which we call Ishvara. So, Brahman as Ishvara is called Apara Brahman. Brahman as the Shuddha Chaitanya is called Para Brahman. So, here in the Brahma Sutra Bhashya, Bhagavad-pada asks a question. So, now, if we say that, first of all, you are saying that there are 2 Brahmans now, a Saguna Brahman and a Nirguna Brahman. So, is there not Dvaita now? These people, the same questions, since Bhagavad-pada, they are asking us until now. I have gotten bored of those questions in the last 2-3 years itself. However, Acharya Purushas have not gotten bored for so many centuries, I don't know. Same question, same answer. So, same answer we give. First of all, Brahman and Ishvara are not separate. It is just that when Brahman takes upon Maya to do something, we are calling him Ishvara. Because he has taken upon Maya, we can ascribe some qualities to him. So, we say that he has some gunas, he has taken upon some name and form. So, we are calling him Ishvara. And then they ask, Sutra Bhashya also, Bhagavad-pada poses the same question. Then there is name and form and also Brahman. So how is there Advaita? Once again Bhagavad-pada responds, names and forms are all avidya kalpita. We don't mean that there are no 2 objects at all. We mean that there is only one paripurna, paramarthika satya is what we mean. Because these names and forms are not paramarthika, therefore there is no problem for Advaita. The same in Telugu we have sung Padinde Pata. Padinde Pata. Same thing that we say, right? So that same song we'll keep singing again and again and again. That is maybe why I'm just getting this idea. That is maybe why Sadashiva Brahmendra said Paramahamsa Mukha. What is that? Ashrama Geetam. Same song that these Paramahamsas are singing again and again in the ashramas. The same questions are being asked. So in this sense, the Para and Apara Brahma are 2 things. One Brahman has 2 natures, in the sense that a Paramarthika nature and a Vyavaharika nature. In the Paramarthika nature, it is a Shuddha Satchidananda, that is Nirguna. When it has to conduct Vyavahara, obviously it has to take upon Maya. So untouched by the gunas, it acts with the gunas, which is why then we call it Saguna. It is not then also that Ishvara somehow has gunas. Ishvara uses Maya which has gunas. Right? Ishvara is still always beyond the gunas. Because Ishvara is Brahman. Right? So these people, they have a problem understanding the fact that Ishvara and Brahman are the same entity. They take it as an insult to Ishvara that there is somehow something else called Brahman. But it is not that there is something else called Brahman. We can take it that Ishvara's true nature is Brahman. Even if we explain it like that, it is very simple. So Para is that Para Brahma. Apara is the Saguna Brahma, which we call Ishvara. That is one more thing. Then one more thing has been given, that the two vidyas. There are two types of vidyas that are told in Mundaka. Dve vidye veditavya itihasmayat brahmavido vadanti parachaiva paracha. There are two vidyas that exist in this world. All knowledge is of two kinds. Tatra para rigvedo yajurveda samaya tharvangriha shiksha kalpa vyakarana nirukto jyotishamiti atha parayaya tadaksharamadigamyate. This is the division. What is apara vidya, the lower vidya, the four Vedas, the 6 Vedangas, all other forms of worldly knowledge all come under apara vidya. What is para vidya? Yaya tadaksharam adhigamyate. That knowledge through which that Brahman is attained. That is the immediate follows. Yaya tadaksharam adhigamyate. What is that tat? Yattad adreshyam agrahyam agotram avarnam achakshushrotram tadapanipadam nityam vibhum sarvagatam susukshmam tadavyayam yad bhutayonim paripashyanti dhiraha. That is the nature of the object whose knowledge is paravidya. So this Nirguna Brahman, who becomes Saguna and becomes Bhutayoni, the origin of all beings, is that entity whose knowledge is paravidya. The knowledge of the bhutas that are created by that Brahman, that is the knowledge of the world around us that has been created by that Brahman, is aparavidya, the lower form of vidya. So that has been told here also. Then he has told one more thing, Pranava. Omkara is also twofold, para and apara. So as I said, when we talked about sound, there is a concept of the unmanifest sound and the manifest sound. So the Om that I have just uttered and that you have just heard is the apara pranava. There is something beyond that, the nature of the pranava beyond that, which is para pranava. So actually we can discuss that now also. If you remember, we discussed that there was one Karya Bindu that attained threefold division as Karana Bindu, Nada and Bija. We would have heard the names for Omkara, Nada Bindu Kala. You have heard this? There is some song also, I think. Nada. Another? There is some song, Nada Bindu Kalatmike or something like that. Some song is also there. Not Nada Tanamansha. Nada Bindu. The words Nada Bindu come in the Pallavi itself. Svarupini, something like that. So this Nada Bindu are what is beyond the Omkara. So you say Omkara and then Nada and then Bindu. So the Omkara in this is the manifest speech. That is to say the Bija. Then before that is the Nada. Before that is the Bindu. That is to say the Karya Bindu. So when you say the Nada, Bindu, Kala, these three put together becomes the Karya Bindu, the Karana Bindu, which is that Avyakta sound from which all of this came. So Omkara's nature, there is the Para Omkara. The manifest nature of this is the Nada, Bindu, Kalatmika Omkara that we say when we say Om, that is this Omkara. So Omkara is also twofold, Para and Apara. And one more, Para Para Cheti Vak Dvividha. Apara tu Pashyantyadi Bhedat Trividha. So Vak is also, speech is also split into Para and Apara. There the Para is exact same. The Para Vak, that is of the nature of that unmanifest state in the Mooladhara. Apara Vak is split into 3, Pashyanti, Madhyama and Vaikhari. So this has been given. Then Puja is also twofold, Para and Apara. And Paracha Paracheti Puja Dvividha. Taduktam Nitya Hridaye. Tava Nityodita Puja Tribhir Bhedair Vyavasthita. Paracha Pyapara Gauri. Tritiyacha Para Para. Prathama Advaita Bhavastha. Sarva Prachara Gochara. Dvitiya Chakra Puja cha Sada Nishpadyate Maya. Evam Jnanamayi Devi. Tritiya Saprathamayi. So here he has taken puja as Trividha, puja Trividha. Para, Apara and Parapara. So if you see this name, Nistre Gunya Parapara, you can take this name as Para and Apara is Parapara. You can also take it as a whole, Parapara. So these three are 3 forms of Devi's puja. So clearly it is told here, what is the Para puja? Para Advaita Bhavastha. That exactly what we said so many times over the last 2 days, that Jnani Tvatmaiva Mematam. The Jnana Bhakti, wherein you love Ishvara, realizing that Paramatma is no different from your very own self. This puja that is done with this bhavana is para, the highest para. Then you have tatra para. It is slightly in the middle, in the sense that it is not so much that I am here, she is there. It is not there, it is in the middle. Para. That is the Ditiya Chakra Puja cha. That is the Chakra Puja, because the Sri Chakra Archana of the Yantra is slightly more subtle. Then the last one is Tritiya Sapratamayi. Worship of the various forms of Devi is separate. I am worshipping Saraswati, I am worshipping Gauri, I am worshipping Lakshmi, I am worshipping Kali. This worship where I am worshipping some form of Devi is the apara. Not to say it is low, it is the most gross form. Even more subtle than this is worship of Devi Sri Chakra. Why is Sri Chakra great? We will see that when we talk about Sri Chakra Rajanilaya. We will talk about that there. And the highest form is worship of Devi is Atma. So in this way, this para, apara, para puja is threefold. So Devi's worship is the object of all of these. So she is called that. In this way, even 2-3 more meanings are given that we can see another time. And the last of these dual names is Murta. This is also very simple. Murta means that with a form, Amurta is that without a form. So the Panchabhutas are split as Murta. There are 2 that are Amurta, Vayu and Akasha, which do not have a form. 3 that are Murta, Tejas, Jala and Prithvi. Which is why people ask, right, in Taitriya, they have told 5 bhutas. Atmana Akasha Sambhuta, Akasha Dvayoho, Vayo Ragnihi, Agne Rapaha, Adhyaf Prithvi. 5 bhutas have been told. In Chandogya, only 3 have been told. Tadaikshata, Tad Tejosrita, Tadaikshata, Tadaposrita, Tadaikshata, Tadaнаmasrita. So Tejas up Anna, Tejo Banna Srishti, it is called. So Tejas, Jala and Prithvi. Why are only 3 told there? We say it is an Upalakshana for the 5. It is not that the other 2 are not created, it is just that they have told these 3 there. Why these 3? Because these 3 are Murta. These 3 are, they have a Rupa that you can see. That is one thing. And one more is there. Yadva Panchikritani Mahabhutani Murtani Apanchikritani to Bhuta Sukshmani Amurtani. That is one more thing. So you have the 5 Tanmatras that become Panchikrita and become Murta. So that 12.5 plus 50. Right? 12.5 of the other 4 bhutas plus 50% of itself is the Panchikrita Bhuta. So then why is it, then we get the question, why do we get, so then if Akasha, for example, has 12.5% Prithvi in it, 12.5% Vayu, 12.5% Jala, if all 5 are there, why is it called Akasha? Then there is a Brahma Sutra, Vaisheshyatu Tadvadas Tadvadaha. Vaisheshya, the Vishesha aspect there is Akasha. Everything else is there only limited in a lesser capacity. Akasha is the greater capacity there. So Vaisheshyat, because Akasha is there in a greater capacity, we call it Akasha. But all bhutas have some portion of everything within that. So the Apanchikrita, the Tanmatras are called Amurta. The Panchikrita bhutas are called Murta. And one more thing. One more Vedavakya is told for those people who are still confused about whether Brahman is told as Nirguna and Saguna in the Vedas. Dvevava Brahmano Rupe Murtancha. This is one Vedavakya. There are 2 forms of Brahman, Murta and Amurta. It is Iti Shrutau Dvedhape Vyakhyana Darshanat. So that is one thing. So same thing that you have told, Brahman, Nirguna Brahman Satchidananda is the Amurta Brahman. Ishvara, who takes upon Maya and takes upon many names and forms, is Amurta Brahman. So Murta, one thing. Athava Prapancha Brahmaniva Murta Murte. Prapancha is Murta, manifest. Brahman is the Amurta, that unmanifest cause from which. This is kind of like Vyakta. How we said the Avyakta is the cause, Vyakta is the effect. In the same way, Brahman is the cause, Jagat is the effect. So Brahman is Amurta, Jagat is Murta, in this way. So all of this all has been told. And then they have quoted Smarta also. Dverupe Brahmanastasya Murtan cha Murtamevacha. All of that they have told. So in this way, all these dualities in Lalitā Sahasranama also have been so nicely explained. Then we will just talk about the last few names, the last shloka. Because when we started with the introduction to Lalitā, and it is Sri Mata, Sri Maharajni, Sri Mat Simhasaneshwari. So it is only proper that when we finish, before we do the final conclusion, we should look at the last shloka. So the last shloka is Sri Chakraraja Nilaya, Sri Mat Tripura Sundari, Sri Shiva, Shiva Shakti Ekya Rupini, Lalitambika. Evam Sri Lalita Devyaha Namnam Sahasrakan Jaguhu. Evam, in this way, Sri Lalita Devyaha, of Lalita Devi, Namnam Sahasrakam, the 1,000 of names Jaguhu, they sang. Who are they? Vashinyadi Vagdevatas, right? We have to keep that in mind. Right? That is why in the end of Vishnu Sahasranama, Shri Bhishma Uvacha, we are reminded that it is Bhishma that is telling this. In the same way, Namnam Sahasrakam Jaguhu. The Vashinyadi Vagdevatas sang these 1,000 names of Lalita in this way. So now, if we come, Shri Chakraraja Nilaya. This is the yantra, the greatest of yantras. So, Shri Yantra, or the yantra of Shri Devi, Shri Mata. So, it is a Shri Yantra, the yantra belonging to that entity which is Shri. This is one meaning. Then we talked about one more meaning, I think the other day. Shri Chakram Shivayor Vapuhu. The Shri Chakra is the sum total of Shiva and Shakti. 4 chakras are Shivas, the round ones are Shivas. The triangular ones are Devis. So, Chaturbhish Shiva Chakrescha, Shakti Chakrescha Panchabhihi, Shiva Shakti Atmakam Jneyam, or Navachakrescha Samsiddham, Shri Chakram Shivayor Vapuhu. This is one more thing that is there. That is why one more thing is there. And the inner meaning of the, here see, Shri Chakra Rajam Bindu Trikonadi Rupam, Nilayaha Vasasthanam Yasyaha. The Bindus and the Vrittas are Shiva's form. The Trikonas are Devi's form. So interestingly, since we are talking about this, there are very philosophical meanings to points and triangles. So why do we see so many triangles? This triangle represents the Triputi. Dhyana, Dhyatra, Dhyeya. Jnata, Jnana, Jneya. These Triputis are the 3 points of the triangle. So anytime that this triad is present, the Triputi is shown through the triangle. That is why one more name is there. And one more interesting point of this, our Triputi is that only Jnana exists. The Jnata is not different from the Jnana, right? The Chaitanya is what is knowing things. So the Jnata is not separated from the Jnana. The Jnaya is also Kalpita in the Jnana only. So Jnana is Chaitanya. So the Jiva is not separate from Shuddha Chaitanya. And the object of knowledge is either seen as Mithya or as Kalpita in this Chaitanya. So now this Jnana, Jnatra and Jnaya are actually how many? Is it 3? It is only 1. That is the point. That is at the middle of the Shri Chakra is the Bindu. From that, so many points, so many petals, it all unfolds. So one more thing is that the Shri Chakra is verily this Jagat. So as I said, each Avarana is each aspect of the Jagat. Each aspect of the Jagat is shown as part of the Shri Chakra. The root of the Jagat from which this entire Chakra blossomed, that is why this entire Jagat blossomed, is that point wherein Chaitanya is there. That is the Shiva Shakti Nivasasthana. That is where Shiva and Shakti are there. So that is shown to us through this entire process of points and triangles. One more thing is there, a point. In math also, what is a point? You actually cannot define a point because there is no real way to define. It is some reference point. You can tell it as a reference. But a point is something in time and space. You don't know how else to say it. If you say it is this much, then there are several points within it. So how to define a point on the graphical plane is a very subtle aspect. So this point, this Bindu represents more or less the same thing. Then the Nava Avaranas. Why 9? There are 9 prakaras going from the Bindu outwards. 9 because this Jagat is made up of 9. So there are certain Sankhyas in our Dharma that are called Purna. For example, 3. Everything is made up of 3s. We will get that when we see Tripura Sundari. Everything is 3s. So the higher form of 3 is 9. The square of it. So in that sense, 9 is the sense of Purnata, which is why, and mathematically also, all multiples of 9 add up to 9, right? 9, 18, 27, all 36, 45, all of these add up to 9. Which is why we say that one more Purna Sankhya is 18. 18 Parvas Mahabharata, 18 Adhyayas Bhagavad Gita, Ashtadasha Shakti Pithas. This 18 is Purna again because it is an expansion of 9, which in itself is an expansion of 3. 3 is an expansion of 1. So 1 expands into 3, expands into 9, into all of that. So again here also we see that it is 1 that is expanding into all of this. So that 9 is there for that reason. One more thing is, if we remember, we have been talking about one thing that we have been discussing the last few days is that the Pindanda and the Brahmanda operate in the same way. That is to say, the cosmos of the Jiva and the entire cosmos operate similarly. Right? That is why the three avasthas are there in both. Right? All of that we have discussed in the Samashti, Vyashti. That is why we have that concept. So just as the Sri Chakra is an emblem of the Jagat, it also represents our body. Bhaskar Rai wrote here, Sharire yatha jivasya avasthanam tatha Sri Chakre shivayoho. Just as the Jiva is seated within the body, in the same way, the Sri Chakra is the Nilaya of the two Shivas, Shivaha and Shiva, who themselves are not different. That is why it is told, Tantra also tells us, Tvang mamsa medosthi Tvang asrang mamsa medosthi dhatavaha shakti mulakaha majja shukla prana jiva dhatavaha shiva mulakaha. So there are 9 dhatus in our body. Tvak asrak mamsa medas asthi majja shukla prana. These are the 9 things that our body is made up of. Tvak, skin; asrak, blood; mamsa, flesh; medas, fat; then asthi, bone; then majja, marrow, the marrow within the bone. Right? If you crack the bone open, when fluid comes out, that marrow; then shukla, the reproductive bija, that is shukla. In the stree, it goes back into shonita. So for the purusha, the shukla comes in a separate form. For the stree, that is recycled back into the shonita, which is why the blood is the stree's reproductive symbol. Not that it is pure blood, but it is conceptualized as that. So in that way, there are how many dhatus have come? 9 have come. These 9 are mapped out to the 9 avaranas. Now, how many belong to Shakti? Tvak, asrak, mamsa, medas, asthi. 5. How many belong to Shiva? Majja, shukla, prana, jiva. Majja, which is the marrow; shukla, which is the reproductive bija, the reproductive seed; then prana, the vayu that creates life; and jiva, chaitanya itself. These are 4. These 4 come from Shiva, these 5 come from Shakti. How many are the Shiva chakras? 4. How many are the Shakti chakras? 5. So the entire body is mapped out onto the Shri Chakra. And out of these 9 dhatus, what is one of them? The Jiva Chaitanya. What is the last bindu of the Shri Chakra? Shiva, Paramatma, Brahman. So in this way, it goes out, and the outward most one is the Sarva Mohaka Chakra, Sarva Mohana Chakra. So these all are Sarva Mohana Chakra, Sarva Rogahara Chakra, Sarvanandamaya. The middle most is Sarvanandamaya Chakra. The outermost is Sarva Mohana Chakra. Middlemost is Sarvanandamaya, because that Brahma's nature, the Chaitanya that is situated in the middle, is Ananda. Now, as that spreads and spreads and spreads, it becomes so manifold that becomes Sarva Mohana Chakra. All the objects created out of avidya, as well as all the objects that the jiva gets deluded by, become the final form of the Jagat. So in this way, the Jagat slowly unfolds from the Sri Chakra. If we wish to conceptualize this, it is like there is a calm lake. Right? So that is to say, if we want to say Shiva and Shakti are both the Sri Chakra, as well as the bindu of the Sri Chakra from whom the Sri Chakra emanates. The one simile we can understand this with is, there is a calm lake. It is just water. You drop one bindu in the middle of the lake. What will happen? The ripples come out from the center. Where did all these ripples come from? The middle only. What is the nature of these ripples? The ripples exist also in the water. So what was that first ripple? That is the first bindu, which was also water. So just as if we think of that drop of water from which all the ripples come forth, you will understand that bindu in the middle from which the entire Sri Chakra came forth. Which is why in the Meru also, each goes up one avarana, then the next avarana is higher, next avarana is even higher, until you reach the point. Right? So that singular point is called the bindu at the end. That is why it is the Meru. So in this sense, the Sri Chakra is a highly esoteric chakra. The entire concept of Srishti, Brahman creating Srishti, pervading Srishti while being distinct from it, all of this is there in the Sri Chakra, which is why it is called the Sri Chakra. It is one of the greatest tantras, the greatest yantras that we have. Then, Srimad Tripura Sundari. So, we have discussed the name Lalitha. we have not discussed the name Tripura Sundari, because as I said, some names are not used in the sense of a lower devata. Some names are used only to mean the higher devata, like Narayana, Sadashiva, etc. So Tripura Sundari is one such name. Although Bhaskara Raya does say in the beginning of this that Devi said, use my name Lalitā in this Sahasranama, because Tripura Sundari is there for one of the Avarana devatas in the Shri Chakra. So in the Shri Chakra, one Avarana devata is called Tripura Sundari, but just because of one occurrence, it does not mean that Tripura Sundari is a name that is used commonly. Tripura Sundari, 99.999% of the time, means that Parashakti only. So this name is Tripura Sundari, and indeed in the Dashamahavidyas, she is called Tripura Sundari. The name, as we say, Tripura Bhairavi, or Kamalatmika, or Tara, or Kali, she is called Tripura Sundari in the parlance of the Dashamahavidyas. So what is Tripura Sundari? Because Tripura Trijagadvandya has already come before. Here Bhaskara Raya takes Tripura Sundari as the Sundari of Tripura, who is Shiva. Tripura is Shiva. Tripura's Sundari, his beautiful wife, is Tripura Sundari. But Tripura Sundari has one more meaning. The Sundari who resides in the Tripuras. The Sundari who is the Tripuras. All of this is there. So the Tripuras refer to all the triads in the body, in the cosmos. So for example, the three Puras are the three bodies. Sthula, Sukshma, Karana, Shariras. What is the Saundarya of this body? Chaitanya. Without Chaitanya, no one wants it, right? That is what Bhagavad Gatavati Vayo Deha Paye. Bharya Bibhyati Tasmin Kaye. And the second that Chaitanya is separated from the body, there people think Bharya Bibhyati. Bharya is not Ekavachana. Bibhyati is a Bahuvachana Kriyapada. So Bharyaha, it is not just the wife. All the people that this person was supporting until then, right? He was supporting his children, he was supporting his wife, whoever, all the naukaris in his house. He was supporting all of them. So all of these people who have lived off of him, they are disgusted by that body. So whatever it was that caused that body to be beautiful to these people until then is Chaitanya. So that beauty of the body, which is Chaitanya, is the Tripura Sundari. Right, so these Tripuras, it is told, one more meaning is there for Tripura. Tribhyaf Pura Tripura. She who predates the three. That is told, Murti Trayasyapi Puratanatvat Tadambikayas Tripureti Nama. Because she predates the Trimurtis, she is called Tripura. Because the Trimurtis, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, come from her. That is why in the Saundarya Lahari also we have that name. Rajasattvam Bibhrat Tamaiva Gunanam Trayamiva. That comes, right? Your eyes, they have the black in the middle, the white around it, and the red tinge to it. Right? These three colors are seen. Bhagavad Pada says, it looks like you are getting ready to create. From the white, you are going to get the person who does sthiti with Sattva Guna, who is Vishnu. From the black, it looks like you are going to do the person who does Samhara with Tamo Guna, Rudra. From the red, it looks like you are about to create the person who does Srishti with Rajoguna, is Brahma. Punasrashtum Devan Druhina Hari Rudran Nayanataha. Right? Rajasattvam Bibhrattamaiva Gunanam Trayamiva. So that concept of Devi giving rise to these Trimurtis is the Tripura. She who predates the Trimurtis is Tripura. That is one meaning. Atha Trini Purani. That is why then we say, then if that is Tripura Sundari, then who is this Tripura? Who is she? Is supposed to be the wife of Bhaskara Raya writes. Atha Trini Purani Brahma Vishnu Shiva Sharirani Yasmin Saha Tripuraha Parashivaha. Parashiva, Paramatma. His Tripuras are also Brahma, Vishnu and Shiva. His wife, his Shakti is Devi, because, as we said, they are not different. The Vedanta Siddhanta is Shakti Shakti Mato Rabhedaha. There is no difference between the Shakti and the owner of that Shakti. There is no difference between sun and sunlight, Agni and heat. Right? The Agni is heat in that sense. Surya is light in that way. Then there is one more conception of what the Tripuras are. Nadi Trayantu Tripura, Sushumna Pingala Ida. The three flows of energy in the body. The Ida and Pingala on both sides, Sushumna down the middle. These are the three Puras. The Chaitanya that flows through these nadis through the body is the Tripura Vasini, the Tripura Sundari, the indweller of the three Puras. Then one more is there. Mano Buddhis Tatha Chittam. Mano Buddhis Tatha Chittam. Puratrayam udahritam. The manas, buddhi and chitta, the mind basically. The mind when it desires is manas, the mind when it decides is buddhi, the mind when it remembers is chitta. So, she who resides in the mind as the Chaitanya that enlivens the mind, enabling it to do all of this is Tripura. That is one more thing. Then, Tatra Tatra Vasatyesha Tasmatu Tripura Mata. Then one more, one person has written a big shloka that talks about all the Tripuras. Devanam Tritayam Trayi Hutabhujam Shakti Trayam Trisvaraha Trailokyam Tripuro Tripushkaram Atha Tribrahma Varnastrayaha Yatkinchit Jagati Tridha Niyamitam Vastu Trivargatmakam Tatsarvan Tripureti Nama Bhagavat Yanvetite Tatvataha. This is one thing. All these three. Devanam Tritayam, the three Murtis. Trayi Hutabhujam, the three Agnis that are the basis for all Vaidika karma. The Dakshina, Ahavaniya and Garhapatya. These three Agnis that form the basis for all karma. Trayi Hutabhujam, Shakti Trayam, Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, which are the basis for anything to be done. To know, to desire and then to act. Without these three there, even if one is missing, action cannot happen. Only if all three there, action will happen. So these three Shaktis that are the cause of all actions. Then Varnas Trayaha, Trisvaraha, the three Swaras, the Udatta, Anudatta, Swarita. That are the three Swaras that lend Shakti to the Veda mantras. Those three. Then Trailokyam, the Patala, Swarga and Bhuloka, the three Lokas. Trailokyam Tripuraha, the three Puras of the body. They are the Stula, Sukshma, Karana, Shariras. Then Tripushkaramatho Tribrahma, the three Brahmas, that is to say in the higher sense of Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. They are also called Brahmas because they are Paramatma level entities. So there. Then Varnastrayaha, the three Varnas of the Omkara, Akara, Ukara, Makara. These three. Varnastrayaha. So not all is Yatkinchit Jagati Tridha Niyamitam. Anything in the world that you can split into three, all of that Vastu Trivargatmakam. So all these objects in the world fall under Trivarga, Dharmartha Kamas. So all these triads are only useful for Dharmartha Kamas. You are that fourth entity, Turiya Kapitvam, you are that fourth entity who is beyond these threes and the Trivargas and therefore are the Chaturtha Varga, the Apavarga, the Moksha Swarupa who pervades these three. Right? That is why Bhagavad Pada says, Giram Devi Mahuho Druhina Grihinim Agama Vidaha. Some people call you the wife of Brahma, the Vagdevi Saraswati. Haref Patnim Padmam. Some call you Lakshmi, the wife of Hari. Atha Hara Sahachari Madritanayam. Some call you Parvati, the daughter of the mountain, the wife of Rudra. Turiya Kapitvam. You are all of these, but your true nature is Turiya Kapi. Something, Edo Undi is that Kapi. When you can tell what it is, Kopi in Pullinga, Kimapi in Napunsakalinga, Kapi in Strilinga. You are some different fourth entity. Then why are you not telling it? Duradhigama Nissima Mahima. Your true nature is hard to understand. Mahamaya Vishwam Brahmayasi. So then until now these three that you have told, one belongs to Brahma, one belongs to Vishnu, one belongs to Shiva. Whose are you? Parabrahma Mahishi. I am that Shakti of the Parabrahma, not even a Trimurti, but of the Parabrahma who is the cause of these Trimurtis. I am his, you are his Shakti and therefore non-different from him. So that same thing is told here. That Sarvam Tripureti Nama Bhagavati Anvetite Tatvataha. O Devi, therefore this name Tripura fits you, it befits you. It fits you properly. Anvetite Tatvataha. That is one more name. So this is Tripura Sundari. So she is the beauty of that, right? So it is also, she transcends the worlds. Lokan Atitya Lalate. But she is also the beauty that is there in this world, right? That Yadyad Vibhoti Matsattvam Shrimat Urjitameva Tattadeva Avagachatvam Mamatejomsha Sambhavam. Right? So any beauty that we see in this world also is her. So she is the Sundari who is beyond the Tripuras. She is also the Sundari in the Tripuras. Which is why you would have heard one thing about Sri Vidya, that they tell that it is only Sri Vidya that gives bhukti and mukti. You would have heard this, right? See, this is in the sense that because Sri Vidya is worship of Paramatma, it is not like Vishnu Upasana will not give you bhukti and mukti. It is not like Shiva Upasana also. It is because Sri Vidya emphasizes the fact that Devi is both within this world and beyond it. So, the sadhaka who meditates upon Devi like that, as you said on the first day, right? The way that you approach Devi or the way that you approach Paramatma will dictate what you get back. So, if you approach Devi as pervading this world and transcending it, obviously the fruit that you get back will also be of this world and transcending this world. Which is why it is said that the Shri Vidya is given as Bhukti Mukti Prada. What is that? That one shloka, I can tell even more shlokas from Saundilya. There is that one shloka. Akhila Purusharthaika Ghatana Swatantram Te Tantram Kshititatalam Avati Taradidam. It is basically Devi forces Shiva. She says, give us a Shastra. Give us one Upasana that will give us Bhukti and Mukti. So that will give us some good Prayojana. So Shiva, Chatushashtya Tantrehi. Chatushashtya Tantrehi Sakala Matisandhaya Bhuvanam. Right, then? This is Tattat Siddhi Prasava Paratantraif Pashupatihi Punastvan Nirbandhat Akhila Purushartheka Ghatana Swatantram Te Tantram Kshititalam Avati Taradidam. So, Paramatma has given rise to many Vidyas, right? All Sampradayas trace themselves back to Paramatma. So, he gave Chatushashtya Tantraihi. 64 different tantras he had given. So, here, many Vyakhyakas have written many. Here, for example, Lakshmidhara, who wrote it for this Saundilya, he has written some 64 types of Kshudropasanas. So, not these Upasana of Narayana or Sadashiva, Dakshinamurti, Mahagana, not these Upasanas, but these Kshudra Devata Upasanas of lower Devatas not as Paramatma. Those tantras were given. With those, what happened? Atisandhaya Bhuvanam. The worlds have been deluded or cheated by that, or the worlds have been tricked by that. Why? Tat siddhi prasava paratantrehi tantrehi. All these tantras, all these kinds of small upasanas give only one siddhi. Not to say that they are useless, but they will only give one. But tvan nirbandhat, you then you requested strongly. You strongly requested that Shiva that you give one more tantra, that is Akhila Purushartheka Ghatana Swatantram. That which freely gives all Purusharthas, Dharmartha Kama Mokshas, it gives all of those. What is that? Te Tantram, your Shri Vidya, specifically your Panchadashi Mantra, for which the Upadeshta is Shiva. Kshititalam Avati Taradidam, that has reached this Bhuloka from Shiva, that is your Tantra. So this shloka that is there in the Saundilya Hari talks about this very nature of Shri Vidya, wherein it gives Bhukti and Mukti, because it is meditation upon Devi as the Devi, the Sundari of the Tripuras, as well as the Sundari beyond the Tripuras. Right? And this is the same meaning that Bhagavad Pada has written for Vishwam Vishnu. Same thing. He appears as the Vishwa, and he is in Vishnu beyond that, and then Bhuta Bhavya Bhadra is beyond all the time and space. Same thing happens in Vishnu Sahasranama. So if we worship that Paramatma in this way, knowing that he is the Srishti Sthiti Laya Karana and yet beyond the Jagat, then the phala of that japa is of course Bhukti as well as Mukti. So that is what this Tripura Sundari is telling us. And then Shri Shiva, I told earlier when you talked about namas that there are some mantra like names of Devi. If we put Shri Mata and Lalitambika aside, we get three very important names in the middle that are even more mantric. So one we discussed already, Uma, the biggest one as Pranava. The other two are this Shiva and Bhavani. These two names also are very particular in the Upasana of Devi. So she is called Shiva because she is different. The wife of Brahma is Brahmani. The wife of Vishnu is Vishnupatni or Vaishnavi. But the wife of Shiva is not Shivani. It is a name that many people are putting today, but it is not an entirely grammatical word. It is in the sense that Panini has not told this. That suffix of ani, that anuk pratyaya, which becomes ani in the course of the sandhi, is not applied to the Shiva. Bhava, Rudra, Mrida, Indra, these kinds of words, he has told which words this pratyaya will come for. Mridani, Bhavani, Rudrani. For some other, Yavani, Aranyani, Himani, the same pratyaya comes there also, but Shiva is not listed in these names. So Shivani does not actually occur in the Paninian system of grammar. You can give it some, they have given some meaning. Shivam Aniti, Jivayati, she who gives life to Shiva, they have given some meaning, but in the sense that the wife of Shiva is Shiva. So that Nama Aikya. So because in this name, that Shiva Shakti Ekatva has been shown. And if we are going even further, that Shiva Shakti Ekatva is seen in some Bijaksharas such that the Akara is Shiva, Ikara is Devi. If you put these two together, you get A. So that A comes in many mantras. So this A is a very particular mantra. That is one more Shiva Shakti. Then in the Hrinkara also, the Hakara corresponds to Shiva. So even in that, when we start with Shiva Shakti Kamaha, right, that is the Hadi Vidya. So the Shivaha in that is the Hakara. And then the Im in that is Devi. The Ikara is Devi. E is called the Shakti Pranava. The Ikara is called the Shakti Pranava. The Repha in the middle is Agni. So the union of Shiva and Shakti is there in the Hrinkara. So this concept, wherever the Shiva Shakti Aikya comes about, that is given specific importance. So that is why the Shiva Nama is very important. And that is why here Bhaskaraya also writes Shiva iti. Shri Shiva, Shri Yuta Shiva, Shri Shiva. Then Shiva Shakti Aikya Rupini. Shiva Shaktiyor Aikyam Samanasyameva Rupam Asyaha. Uktam cha Vayu Samhitayam. Shivechaya Parashaktihi Shiva Tattvaikatangata. Tataf Parisphuratyado Sarge Tailam Tiladiva. So through the will of Shiva, the Shakti manifests as his Ichha or as his Shakti. But otherwise, they are not different. Through his will, it appears as though his Shakti is different. But it is actually not different. The example they have given is Tailam Tiladiva. What is it? Tailam Tiladiva. So the oil and the sesame seed are not separate. Only if you crush out the oil, you will only through namesake be able to separate the seed and the oil. Actually, this is even not the perfect example. The better example is water, wetness, fire, heat. That is a better example. But here, to show that Shakti and Shiva exist in each other, just as the Taila exists in the Tila. To show that, they have told this. Atra samarasyam samarasata means samyam atyanta abhedaha. There is no difference at all. Because bhedas are of many kinds, right? There is a bheda of the difference between a cat and a dog. Cat and dogs are different. If you say, no, they are not different because they are animals. This is one kind of unity, but it is not atyanta abheda. However, because the entity is not the same. The entity has to be the same, only then you will get atyanta abheda. That is the nature of the unity between Shiva and Shakti. So that has been also told. Brahmanaha abhinna shaktistu brahmaiva khalu na para. Brahman and the Shakti of Brahman are not separate. The Shakti of Brahman is Brahman. Tatha sati vritha proktam shaktiritya vivekibhihi. It is only people who do not understand this fact that say that Shakti is different and Paramatma is different. Shakti mator vidvan bheda bhedastu durghataha. So the difference, it is very tough to show a difference between Shakti and Shaktiman. So this is one more. Then one more they have told, Yathaikam pavanaspandam ekam aushnyanalau yatha chinmatram spandashaktischa tathai vaikatma sarvada. This it is even clear. Wind and the quality of blowing, fire and heat, aushnya analau yatha. In the same way, Chaitanya and the Spanda Shakti, right? We talked about the nature of Spanda. So Chaitanya and its ability to create that Spanda, these two are Ekatma, they are singular. So in this way, they have discussed Shri Chakrarajanilaya, Shri Matripura Sundari, Shri Shiva, Shiva Shakti Rupini, and Lalitambika, the mother who is Lalitha. Meaning of Lalitha we have already discussed, but quickly we will tell. She who is very beautiful, she who is very soft, and then she is of the very nature of Ananda. So all of this is there of Lalitha. Oh, lastly, finally, one last aspect that we will conclude with this, Devi is also the Guru. We have not discussed that till now. She is also, there are several names that come. Guru Mandala Rupini, Guru Murtihi, Guru Priya, all of these names come. So because we are in Sringeri, in the Pitha that the Jagadguru Jagadguru Bhagavatpada has established, we must also keep in mind that Devi is Guru Mandala Rupini. Because we are going for darshan every day, the Lalitā Devi that we have been learning about for the last 7 days is none other than the Mahaswamiji who is giving darshan to us every day and who is doing Chandramanishwara Puja every night and who did Sri Chakrarchana last night, in fact, on Friday. So very interestingly, it is not just these names, but the identity with Devi, with the Guru has been brought out so nicely in the names Nishkrodha, Krodhashamani, Nirlobha, Lobhanashini, Nirmoha, all of this Nishkrodha, Krodhanashini, Nissamshaya, Samshayagni, Nirbhava, Bhavanashini. In these names, Bhaskaraya has written Nishkrodha, Nirlobha, Nissamshaya, Nirbhava, these apply to Devi. But Devi as Krodha Nashini, Samshayagni, Bhava Nashini apply to Devi as the Guru. So just as when you say Saraswati is the form of Devi that gives speech, Bhava Nashini, Samshayagni are the forms of Devi that are the Guru, which is why he quotes one very interesting shloka there. He says, one second, he tells here, he says for Nissamshaya, he says, Asamshayaha Tattvaviccha Tatchit Tat Pratipadanat. So the Guru should be such that Asamshayaha Tattvavit Tatchit Tat Pratipadanat. He has no doubts and he knows the Tattva, so he destroys it with it. So you have to take each it as this. He does not have any doubts, so he destroys the doubts. He has jnana with the jnana. He has no doubts, he has jnana, so he destroys doubts by giving the jnana. Tat asamshayaha tattvaviccha tat chit tat pratipadanat. This is one nature of the Guru that he has given. Then bhavanashini, there also samsara nashayati, with the upadesha. He has given that. And then I mentioned the other day, Yadva Bhavanashiti Tatan Nrisimham Agamat iti Brahajjalopanishat Prasiddham Nadi Vishesha Rupa. So Bhavanashini is the river in Ahobilakshetra. That has also been mentioned in the Brahajjalopanishat. So he's quoted that also. So in that place, the identity of Devi as Guru. In the Samshayagni. Then of course Gurumurti. So there also one more shloka is quoted to show that Gurureva Murtihi Shariram. Just as Devi takes upon various forms, the form of the Guru is one more form that she has taken upon. There he takes a very nice quote. Yatha ghatascha kalashaha kumbhascha ekarthavachakaha tatha mantro devatacha guruscha ekarthavachakaha. Just as the words ghata, kumbha, kalasha, all of these mean same, a pot. In the same way, mantra, devata, guru all mean the same entity. They refer to the same entity. So this is told in Mantra Shastra also that when you do japa, the devata, the mantra and the guru, we should not see any bheda between these. And the meaning of the word guru is told, usually what you know, gukarastandhakarasyat, rukarastan nirodhakaha. Gu is darkness, ru is he that obstructs it. But then one more meaning is given. In one more tantra, one more meaning is given. Gukaras saditi proktaha, rukaro jnanavachakaha, brahmajnanaika rupatvat, gururithyabhidhiyate. Gu means sat, that is to say the sat padartha Brahman. Ru means jnana. So he whose swaswarupa is of the nature of that Brahmajnana and who he gives that Brahmajnana is the Guru. So that is one more name that has been told. Then we will finish off with the last name Guru Mandala Rupini, simply because the idea of Parampara has been written there so nicely. So it starts with Sampradayeshwari Sadhvi Guru Mandala Rupini. She is the master of this Sampradaya because the first Guru of any Sampradaya, if you look at the Vaishnava Pancharatra Agamas, they will tell that that has been taught by Mahavishnu or Mahavishnu to Garuda or Lakshmi, from there it will come. If you look at all the Shaiva Agamas, either Shiva or Dakshinamurti or Nandi or Skanda or Ganesha would have taught those Shaiva Agamas. In the same way here in the Shakta Agamas also, either Devi herself or Shiva or Agastya Maharshi or Durvasa Maharshi or Hayagriva or someone will teach this. So at the end of the day, the first Guru of any Sampradaya is Devi. So she is Sampradayeshwari. How does she propagate the Sampradaya? Sadhvi, very well, in accordance with Sadachara. One note, when we tell the Sahasranama, when we do Sahasranama Archana, we put this into Chaturthi Vibhakti, right? Shri Matre Namaha, Shri Rajñai Namaha, Shri Maharajñai Namaha, Shri Matsimhasaneshwaryai Namaha. So this Sadhvi actually occurs elsewhere also. But if we remember, there is one Pratyekata, one speciality of this is that no name is repeated. Shambhavi Sadhvi comes earlier. Sadhvi also comes earlier. So there, the Strilinga name is taken. Here, the Napumsakalinga name is taken. So here you do not say Sadhvi Namaha when you do it. You say Sadhune Namaha. So again, here also we will say in the Napumsakalinga, just as Madhu Shabda is Napunsaka, Madhune, Chaturthi. Here also you will say Sadhune Namaha. So the meaning has also been given as per the Napumsaka Linga also. So one thing to keep in mind that is why in these tantras and all, Sampradaya is so important. If we just read Lalitha Sahasranama and we know Samskrita, we will not know here that although the name is Sadhvi, it should be told as Sadhune Namaha. We will not know that unless it comes in the Sampradaya. So she has told that. Then how does she propagate this sampradaya in this way? Guru Mandala Rupini. She is of the nature of Guru Mandalas. That is what Dikshitar, Mushta Swami Dikshitar's first kriti, Srinathadi Guru Guho Jayati Jayati. So those of you with Sri Vidya know that the Guru Smarana Shloka starts with Srinathadi Guru Trayam Ganapatim. That is how the Sri Vidya Guru Smarana starts. So that is how Muthuswami Dikshit also started. Srinathadi Guru Guho Jayati Jayati. So that Srinathadi, those gurus, that Samoha is Devi, that Guru Mandala. So Tat Swarupa Nishkarshastu, the knowledge of Devi as is obtained through Tanmukha Deva Anusandheyaha. The knowledge of Devi's true nature can only be obtained by Devi herself. Therefore, because it is Rahasya Tamatvat, because it is very Sukshma, it is Rahasya, we have been shouting about it for 7 days, means Rahasya means that which is very tough to know, not that you are telling it in an ear somewhere, that which is tough to know. Then, Paramashivadi Swaswa Guru Paryantaha Guravaha. So, who are the gurus in this mandala? Starting from Paramashiva until Swaswa Guru. Each person's their own guru. So, for us here, the jagadgurus, or for anyone sampradaya, their gurus. Until that guru, all the gurus in the middle are the gurus. Mandalam is the parampara. So, Guru Mandala Rupini means Guru Parampara Rupini. Saiva Rupam. Rupam here is not only the form, but he writes Nirupanam. That through which she is shown. So she is both the Guru Mandala herself, and she is also shown through the Guru Parampara. Both meanings have been given. Nirupanam asyaha. Avichinna Guru Paramparya Kramagatamidam Rahasyam Natu Pustake Likhyate iti bhavaha. So this jnana is obtained through an Avichinna Guru Parampara. Because the second that one Guru does not teach a Shishya, and one more Shishya does not have a Guru and he reads it on his own, that knowledge does not have the stamp of validity on it. You need someone who has obtained a stamp to stamp it. Paramatma already has a self-stamp. He has stamped someone. That person has started this. So until and unless a realized Guru says that, okay, you are now good to go, until then, he may be telling the right thing, but we do not have a guarantee. Which is why, Avichinna Guru Paramparya Kramagatam idam Rahasyam. Natu Pustake Likhyate. So we should not just pick up Varivasya Rahasya, Sri Vidya Mahatantra and just start reading through the books and telling mantras. There is a particular way to do all of this. That is the nature of the Guru Parampara, and here he has used the word Avichinna Guru Parampara, which the only and the oldest existing Guru Parampara institution in this world is, of course, this Pitha. There is no other Pitha that has an unbroken Parampara of 12 centuries. We will not see that anywhere else. So, if you are wishing to see the physical manifestation of this line that Bhaskara Raya has written, we are sitting there. So, that Avichinna Guru Paramparya Kramagatam is exactly what Bhagavatpada has put here. And the parampara here is also that of Sri Vidya, which is why, as I said earlier, Sharadamba here is Mahakali, Mahalakshmi, Mahasaraswatyatmika Sri Sharadamba. Whether it be in Sringeri or in any of our Shakha Mathas also, Sharadamba is always put on top of a Sri Chakra. So here Bhagavatpada drew a Sri Chakra himself. So Bhagavatpada did that in many places. Kanchi also, Kancham, Sri Chakra Yantrasthapana Dikshitaya Namaha. All of that is there, right? He drew the Sri Chakra in Kanchi. So here also he has drawn the Sri Chakra himself and put Devi on top of that. Which is why here Sharadamba is not just the wife of Brahma, but she is in fact no different from Lalitha. Which is why even when the Jagadgurus do puja to her, the mantra nyasa and all that they do, or the puja vidhana that they do, is the puja vidhana of Lalitā Tripurasundari. It is not the Saraswati Puja Vidhana. Saraswati Puja Vidhana is done on some days. For example, when the Brahmani Alankara or when the Vasanta Panchami comes, on those days she is worshipped as Saraswati. But otherwise, any time that Sharadamba's puja is done by the Jagadgurus, it is done with the Sri Vidya mantra and the Sri Vidya Paddhati as per the worship of Tripura Sundari. So, that is Devi, whom we also see as Dakshinamurti Rupini. Right? This Devi is no different from Dakshinamurti, who is the Guru for Sri Vidya. What does Dakshinamurti have in the hands? Sphatikarajavarnam Mauktike Mamkshamalam Amrita Kalasha Vidya Jnanamudrah Karagrer Dahatam. In his four hands he has a Mauktiki Makshamala, a pearl made Japamala, a Japamala of pearls. Then Amrita Kalasha, a Sudha Kalasha, a pot filled with Amrita here. Vidya, a book in one hand. Jnanamudra, a Jnanamudra in one hand. Karagrer Dahatam. This is the form of Dakshinamurti. This is the exact same form of Sharadamba here. The same things. Mudra Mala Sudha Kumbha Vibodha Mudra Vidya Virajat Karavari Jatam. So the Devi, that Tripura Sundari, who is Dakshinamurti Rupini, is Sharadamba here. She is also the Guru Mandala Rupini of the Jagadgurus, starting from Bhagavatpada until today's Jagadgurus who are here. And it is solely through their grace that I have learnt and have been able to tell whatever little I have conveyed in these last 7 days. It is with their grace that we have been able to engage in this discourse. So once again conveying our heartfelt Sashtanga Pranamas to their Pada Padmas. Vande Guru Padadvandam Avang Manasa Gocharam Rakta Shukla Prabha Mishra Matarkyam Teipuram Mahaha. I will end this series here. Bhumau Skhalita Padanam Bhumireva Avalambanam Tvayi Jata Paradhanam Tvameva Sharanam Shive Pradeepa Jwalabhi Divasakara Nirajana Vidhi Sudha Sotesh Chandropala Jalalavair Arghirachana Tvaye Rambhobhi Salilanidhi Sauhitya Karanam Tadiye Rambhobhi Salilanidhi Sauhitya Karanam Tvadiyabhirvagbhis Tavajanani Vacham Stutiriyam.